Tonya, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Keith.
For our viewers, who is Tonya Ladip?
Ooh, that's a big question. Tonya Ladipo is a lover of joy, a lover of good food.
Okay. Something we got in common.
Yes, I love good food. I love warmth and sunshine. And I would say kindness and courage are driving factors for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does kindness filter into the work that you do?
So, kindness, to me, I can't even separate kindness from courage, right? So kindness to me is very different than nice. Nice is kind of nothing to me. It's bland. But kindness is something that is intentional and there is thought behind it. And so the intention to be kind in situations, to be kind with people, to see people as they are, and to interact with people in a kind way is really important to me. And the courage piece with work, how I think they're so connected, it also means having uncomfortable conversations and giving people feedback and hearing feedback from people, and saying the thing that people aren't saying but needs to be said for the work to move forward. And so that's not always easy. So I think that's where courage comes in, but it also doesn't need to be done in a cruel way.
Okay. So emotional wellness in the workplace is one of your areas of focus. And I'm sure that conversation takes a lot of kindness and courage.
Yes.
Just kind of give us a synopsis of what emotional wellness is.
Yes. So I think one of the things, we've learned a lot from the pandemic, but I think one of the things that we've learned kind of culturally is that the distance and separation between work and home is not as rigid as we would have liked to believe, right? That veil is very thin. And so when we have problems at home, we're still the same person dealing with those problems when we go into the workplace. Yeah. So whether it's because of personal relationships, whether it's because of world events, community events, right? That still impacts us at work.
Right.
And so for managers, people managers, leaders, to be aware that the people on your team are whole people, and we can't ignore their emotional wellness and only focus on the task at hand, which I think historically has been how business operated, right? But now I think there's an understanding that actually if you want to focus on the task at hand, spending a little more time paying attention to the person and what's going on for them and what they need and what support they might need and pointing them in the right direction. It doesn't mean managers need to be therapists. That's why you have employee assistant programs, right? That then people feel heard, and that extra 5 minutes that you just spent with somebody checking in with them, now they can go focus and actually do the work, which is why they're there.
I can imagine there are a lot of layers between a prospective company that you want to do business with and the actual person who's getting that message of what you just said of the importance of emotional awareness, emotional wellness. So how do you navigate through those different layers to get someone to hear that message?
That's a great question. That's a really good question as an entrepreneur, because you're right, there are a lot of layers from the first point of contact to actually being able to deliver the service within an organization.
And even when you're delivering the service, you got to get someone to embrace what your message to.
I'm a licensed clinical social worker by training, right? So kind of my understanding of human behavior and motivation really informs a lot of the work that we do.
Okay.
So we know that we just can't go in and say, do X, Y, and Z and expect people to do it, right?
Yes.
So part of what we build into our work is how do we work with the kind of typical human resistance to change, that even when you say, and this is human, you say you want to do something different, but when it comes time to do it, it's hard.
That's right.
And so you start pushing back. And so we kind of build that into our program. That understanding gets built into the work we do.
Okay.
We expect there to be pushback. We expect there to be discomfort. That doesn't happen right away. At the beginning, everyone's really excited. And then we start saying things and they're like, oh, wait, we have to do something different, and then the reality sets in. And so we kind of expect that, and we talk to them and we say, we know this is uncomfortable, but let's remember why we're here. Let's remember what you want the impact to be. So let's keep going forward till we get to where we want to be.
Okay. What really does an organization prefer, or what is a better received message? Emotional wellness or DEI?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And I would say the answer changes depending on what's happening. Depending on what's happening.
What's happening in society?
What's happening in society,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
sometimes emotional wellness is a lot more prevalent and prominent in terms of what organizations are thinking they need for their employees. Other times DEI is at the forefront. When the changes in the Supreme Court happened, in the summer of 23,
Yes.
that put a lot of businesses got really nervous.
Yes.
And so I think the businesses that are still committed, because when we say DEI, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's a shortcut. But in my opinion, what we're really talking about is how are we thoughtfully, strategically, and intentionally making the workspaces a place where everybody has the same opportunities to thrive, to advance, and belong. That's what that means. Right. It means that people who've been historically excluded from opportunities, that organizations are developing a pipeline so that they are not excluded, right? And that organizations are thoughtful of when people are in the company that they have the same opportunities for promotion, right? And retention. But that's not something you can just say. You actually have to put policies in place, and then you have to train people to enact the policies, and then you have to measure the policies to make sure it's happening.
Right.
So DEI is really how do we make the workplace representative, honestly, of the country that we live in?
Yeah.
And then how are we treating people in a way that is equitable, that is fair, that meets all needs, just not the needs of some.
So I can imagine there are lots of layers you have to go through to get that message across.
Yes, there are a lot of layers, but it's always really good. I have to say, one thing I really enjoy about working with people is there are hesitations and there are defenses that we just have when we have to make change.
Right.
And then those same people become the biggest champions. They are the biggest champions for why things need to be different, right? When they're willing, and this is where the courage comes in, right? When you're willing to say, oh, the way we've always done it might have worked for me, but doesn't work for everybody, and we're going to make changes so that it's good for everybody. Okay, this is uncomfortable, but I can get behind it. Yeah. And then they bring other people along. So that's what's incredibly powerful for me.
Well, Tonya, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. We have these for people to learn, grow, build confidence, as well as resilience, and we appreciate your contribution.
Thank you, Keith.
All right,
I
thank you.
appreciate it.